This is the Billings Chamber's Coffee with Candidates program. We host these in each ward with the candidates running in that ward, trying to get an opportunity for our members to come and see who's running and give the candidates an opportunity to speak to potential voters. So as we run through this, I've got a number of scripted questions that I will ask of the candidates, and we'll run it kind of like a fantasy football snake draft, up this way, then down, back, and then back and forth throughout the program. I've got plenty to ask, but really we want to provide some space for you to ask the questions that you've got on your mind. So at about 8:30, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for your questions there. We are at MSU Billings in this great space, this nice facility. Dr. Stephanie Hickswa would have liked to have been here to welcome us, but unfortunately she had other matters to attend to, but she is thankful that you are all here today. And we thank her for giving us the space. So I'm sorry, one more thing. I want to thank our business advocacy sponsors. On the table tents in front of you, you've got those, and thanks to their great sponsorship, we can host these events and get this information out to our members. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll limit questions to 2 minutes. Jack, if I could have you be our timer there. And we'll start here with Ms. Mary Hernandez. First of all, if you just want to introduce yourself, talk about your experience, your background, why you're running, what you hope to bring to the table.
Good morning. Thanks to the Chamber and the sponsors for this event, and thank you for coming out. So I'm Mary Hernandez, and I have chosen Billings as our home, or my family and I have chosen Billings as our home for the last 41 years. And I currently work at Rocky at the Institute for Peace Studies as the program director there, as well as I have a consultancy called Envisage Consulting, where I do a lot of board development and organizational development. Why am I running? Since I arrived in Billings, I've been involved in the community, first in my daughter's schools, throughout the years that she was in the public schools here in Billings, and she graduated from senior, and then she left, like many high school graduates, right? So she is a Carleton College grad, and she is not likely to ever return home. I'd love to really address those issues for other families where, we would love to have more opportunities for our family, for our young adults to be able to return home and have a great community. I have worked with primarily in the nonprofit sector. With that, I work with organizations that have a budget of $25,000 to $50,000 to currently I've been working with a national organization that has $1 billion annual budget. And I serve on the executive committee and the finance committee of that, so I feel that I have good experience in governance and in helping to create good policy.
All right, thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
Yeah, again, thanks for coming. We appreciate you being here. My name is Dan Tidswell. Myself and my family, we live here in Billings. We love this city. I have 4 kids. My wife works in the school district. I'm currently a territory sales manager with General Motors. I'm proud to be part of a $1 billion revenue stream for that company. I handle a budget anywhere between $19 and $23 million a year. So I feel like I fit into that. I guess you call me fiscally responsible, not anything else. But again, touching on what Mary said, our kids are leaving, and I want to jump in and make sure that they have a place to come back to, that they can afford to come back to it, that they feel secure coming back to Billings, because again, we love this city. We're invested here, and I think that's what we have to make sure. People that are coming here are invested here, and that's why I jumped into this.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton.
Thank you, Dan, for having us. I'm Tim Warburton. I am married to my wife, Anna. We've been married for 15 years, almost 16 years here in September. We have 4 children. Oldest is 15 and driving. So if you come across somebody who's driving really slow on the road and nervous, that's probably my son. And our youngest is 7. And my wife's a nurse. She's been at Billings Clinic since '03. And my work history, well, first I'll start with my education history just because I met Dr. Hickswell before, and I told her I had graduated from MSUB here in 2013. She goes, "Make sure you mention that, would you?" So yeah, I'm an alumni from here. Graduated in 13 with my degree in human services, and then graduated in December of last year with my master's in social work. Currently, I work as a social worker at Riverstone Health. I'm a social worker in our hospice program. I've been there for about 4 years. Prior to that, I'm also a licensed addiction counselor here in Montana, and I keep that license active. I had worked for 2 years at Riverstone downtown with our healthcare for the homeless population, providing addiction counseling to that population. And then previously to that, I had worked at Rimrock in their treatment court program under Judge Nisley. And prior to that, I worked at the Psych Center, and my first job here in Billings was at Aware, working with adults with developmental disabilities. So my work history has been working with the people here. I have what was that? 15 seconds. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I love the people that I work with, and really feel like I've been kind of on the ground level there on the street. And I'm running because I feel like it's important we have folks with that experience, and folks that are really kind of on the ground representing those folks on city council.
Thank you. All right, for our next question here, we'll start with you, Mr. Warburton, and work our way back towards me. What is your long-term vision for Billings 25 years from now? How do you intend, potentially in the next 8 years, to make a positive impact on the way there?
Thank you. 8 years is ambitious, but we'll take it. Yeah, I think in 25 years, it's a long time to think, and I was thinking about this. I'll be 65 and hopefully ready to retire by then. And the place that I want to see Billings is, first off, a place that's safe for me, for my children, hopefully for my grandchildren to stay here. And then a place that's welcoming with the civic infrastructure, parks, trails, all of those things that make Billings an inviting place to be. So want to make sure that, one, we're safe here and people feel welcome here in Billings. And then, the things that I'll do in the next 8 years, support those things, support the groups in the community that are doing the hard work, and be supportive of them as they come to council with their ideas, their initiatives, their proposals, those kind of things. So, I just want to make sure Billings is a great place to live, and we'll do what I can to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
Jumping on to what Tim said, I'm looking for a vibrant, safe community, small and local business friendly, welcoming, with an efficient local government. I think that's what we all want. We all want to support the parks. We all want to support the trails. But again, I'm going to go back to fiscal responsibility. How do we pay those things? What do we do differently than we're doing right now? Where do we change our focuses to appease everyone and make it right for the residents of Billings? I also intend to press for accountability and transparency, because I really don't believe that enough of that is there. Done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Hernandez.
Well, I too would love to see a very vivacious and exciting community for our young families to, and all families to participate in. And one where we're not afraid to invest in actually the growth, the continued growth of our city, that we have adequate housing at all levels so that families can grow. From young families where we need affordable housing that can help them grow into, continue to grow into this community and have their families grow with them. I believe that we need workforce development, and we have some great gems around the city. We need more. We also need to be mindful of the policies that we set today so that we don't hijack something for the future, families and so forth, that it really is geared to growth and that it's healthy growth. Yes, I believe in transparency. That's why I'm a governance geek. And I think that there are many ways we can do that. I am thrilled that the city council has voted in the budget and approved a public information officer. I think that will help us so much in helping to share what is going on with the city council and city government.
All right. Thank you. Everybody under time. Some aspiring elected officials here. Thank you. We'll start with you, Ms. Hernandez, and we'll work our way back towards Tim on this one. The Billings Chamber's policy priorities are workforce development, tax reform, and public safety. We hope to address all of them, but some may be more important than others. For you, what is your number one priority to grow the Billings economy? And you don't have to choose from our list.
I think I may have already touched on some. I think that they're all crucial. It's not either or, it's an and. We need to make sure that we have great workforce development for our small businesses and our growing businesses, and that we're able to attract other businesses into our community. As far as safety, of course, we all want to live in a safe city. I feel very safe here. I feel that, I travel a lot, and I just find that Billings is a incredibly safe city. I feel that, again, the public information officer can help us better identify what it is that our citizens are concerned about, and let's engage in further conversation so that we can actually help people identify what prevents them from feeling safe. Because I feel that this city, in particular, when I take my friends around who visit from other towns, they're just simply amazed. So I believe we live in a wonderful city, and I think that it takes all of those elements: safety, work development, tax reform. For years, I've helped with. I've even gone to Helena for oh my goodness, all of a sudden, the local option tax in support of that, so that we can actually then choose to do some and invest in our community as we see fit. So I think it's not a either or, it's an and.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
Yes, they are all important. I look at tax reform, I look at workforce development, very, very important. But I'm going to go back to public safety, because without that, we don't have a shot at the rest. And I disagree with Mary. The numbers dictate that Billings is not that safe a place. We are not impervious to what's going on around us right now, and public safety needs to be a primary factor. But again, Mary, those numbers don't jive. We are not a safe city. And yeah, somebody coming in from California is going to think that, but the numbers don't lie. So, again, I think government's priority should be safety and infrastructure. I think that's what we have to look at, and that's what we have to work upon. The rest will come. The workforce development will come. I'd like to see something done with tax reform. But again, I'm going back to public safety, and I'm going to stand there.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton?
Yeah, I think all three obviously are important. I could talk about any one of those. I will say public safety for me is more than just money to the cops. I'm supportive of the police. We should give them the resources they need, and I trust that Chief St. John lets the council know what he needs. But it also is investing in our treatment programs, our mental health programs, and ability for folks to get those services that they need. And addressing youth trauma, the trauma that impacts people as adults. So investing back in our community early into our children will negate some of these things that we're seeing now. I think what we're seeing now is a result of not investing in those programs over the last 30 years. And so we're running into drug issues, families with mental health, divorce, domestic violence, those kind of things. That is a result of not investing in some of these things along the way. I would say the second thing, probably, so public safety, obviously the most important, but it's really a large topic and it involves more than just the police. I would say the tax structure here, if you're a property owner, there's really no other options except for your property taxes to go up if you want to keep having the same services that you have now. We're not even talking about really increasing services or building new parks, any of those things. We're talking about your taxes will have to go up just to keep the services that you have now. And so we really need to look across Billings, Montana at how we get income into the city, because right now it pretty much falls on the property owners and asking you to raise your own taxes every year. We're coming back out this year with another ask for public safety, and next year it'll be another ask. And so we really need to think about and look at that tax structure and how we're going to address that, because I don't think it's very sustainable to keep asking the property owners every year to raise their own taxes for basic city infrastructure needs.
All right. Thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Warburton, on this one. Do you support the 2021 public safety mill levy? If so, what public safety outcomes are you looking for in evaluating its success? If not, how would you address Billings' public safety concerns without a mill levy?
Yeah, I support the public safety mill levy. I think the discussion last year around the mill levy and what was going to be required already knew, if you've been following, that this year they were going to come back and ask for more, because last year what they asked for was just enough to keep the services they had, just the status quo. And they already knew they were going to come back this year and say, we want to go, these are the resources we need. Last year was just to keep us kind of here, but we really need to be up here. So that's what the public safety mill levy this year is about. One of the things I'm most excited about it is it includes money in there for substance abuse treatment and mental health. And what that looks like, they're going to have to figure that out. But I thought it was great to see that as a priority of City Council, because I really believe that is an important way to tackle some of the issues we're having here in Billings. So outcomes, I'm looking forward to where that money goes and how that money is spent, and hopefully it goes to the right places that help folks. So,
thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
You betcha. I look at the public safety mill levy. Every year we look at the public safety mill levies. And a lot of times I think it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. I don't know where the transparency there or where the accountability there lies. But again, we need to open that up. How efficiently do we follow the CPSM reports? Are we following that data? And as a fiscally responsible person, I look at the efficiency of all the departments in that respect. Budget analysis, and I can't sit here and tell you that I'm going to support this public mill levy, because again, I feel like it's a shot in the dark. The money's not being spent where it needs to be. I want to focus on that, but I can't sit here and tell you that I support that mill levy right now.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
So one thing I want to say is that I do believe in safety for Billings. I'm not naive to think that there isn't any crime. That's not what I'm saying. I feel that I need more time to actually review the police operations and data analysis report that was recently released before I can fully answer, what a plan would be. Yep. I agree with my opponents on a number of things. Yes, safety is critically important, and we need transparency of whatever we choose to do. I work with enough social service agencies to know that we really need to look at crime, and I look at crime, I separate what is violent versus what is nonviolent. And do we really need to fill our jail spaces with nonviolent criminals or whatever we want to, and charged individuals, because who knows what their trials would end up being. And also, what is leading to that crime? And I think that is something that we need to continue, because there are plenty of folks in town that have been looking at that, and we need to continue to find solutions for the underlying issues that have increased crime. I also want to say that I also recognize that crime is not at its highest point in history. So that's where I say that we just need to take a realistic look and also address the fears that our community has, because the narrative that we send out outside of our community saying that we are a high crime city is not attractive. So let's address the reasons for that and have a good narrative around that.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Hernandez, we'll start with you on this next one.
I don't get a break? Okay.
No breaks. Right into the next one. Billings has grown over the last decade and will likely see increased growth as more people seek to move to Montana. How should Billings, as the largest urban center in the state, be proactive about planning, whether it's zoning, transportation, et cetera, to ensure we are ready for this growth?
As I stated when I introduced myself, we have chosen, my husband and I have chosen to live in Billings for 41 years. We love this town. And I believe that for continued growth, we definitely need to look at infill as we, continue to grow. Because we already have infrastructure there that is easier to connect into and improve along the way than to lay new infrastructure. And right now, if we have difficulty paying for what we have, it simply makes sense to tie into what's available. Yes, there's other costs and so forth. We just need to figure out a solution for that. How we incentivize, infill development or infill. I think that transportation is an issue. We need to figure out how we have our lower paying workers get to the jobs that they have, and we need to really become innovative in how we address transportation. Other cities have, car parks, or they're called different things, park and rides and so forth. And can we have different centers where people switch off from a car to a bicycle to a bus to a van to a whatever to get our workers to where they need to go and our young people to other opportunities across the city? I think that, bicycles are great. There's different programs. That's seasonal. We live in a northern state, but there are ways to, other cities seem to find solutions to the transportation thing, and I feel that we can do so as well.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell?
Agree with Mary on a lot of those points. The infill, very important. I think we need to utilize the existing space a little bit more efficiently. Transportation, I guess accommodating riders is one price point, and again, customizing that ride is going to be a lot more expensive. So I agree with you. We need to find different variations there, and again, how are we going to pay for that? So the other thing that we talk about zoning here, and I've looked at this recode, and it's not really pro-business, especially for the existing businesses in Billings. So I think we need to take a better look at that zoning as well. I think the most important part, though, is how do we ensure that those that are coming to Billings are making an investment in Billings and making it a better city? Because I feel like there are a lot of people that are coming to Billings that don't have that focus.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton?
Yeah, I think knowing some of the work the city staff have already done planning for the future, I look at the Billings Weston Water Reservoir as something that started many years ago and is coming to fruition here in the next couple of years. As somebody in the city and our city staff that has identified, this is going to be a problem, we need to address this. Hence, we need to start planning for this now, so that way when the time comes, we have some of the funds there. So that's why we're not seeing a huge increase on any of your taxes this year for that water plant, because they've been saving up for that and planning on that for many years now. So ideas like that, and really, I believe our city is in a good spot with our city staff being able to identify some of the needs that we have. I think you look at Project Recode, a great example of how are we going to move Billings into the future. It was an update that was sorely needed. Took 3 years, had lots of community input, business owner input. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it's an upgrade from where we were. And those are the kind of things that move the city forward, make it appealing for people to move here. So Project Recode's a great example, and the Weston Water Reservoir is another great example. And so working with the city to identify what those things are and trusting that our city staff, the folks that your taxpayer money that you pay their salary, they're the experts in these fields, trusting that they're going to say, hey, this is what we're going to need in 10 years. This is how we're going to do that. And then helping them be successful in that.
Thank you. All right, I've got a few more questions queued up, but be thinking about those burning questions that you have out there in the audience. Mr. Warburton, we'll start with you on this one. The state legislature passed a law in the 2021 session which will require Billings voters to reauthorize Park District 1, an important source of parks funding in the near future. What should City Council's strategy be to fund parks, an essential amenity for talent attraction, in the next several years?
Well, having served on the Parks Board for 4 years, I'm very familiar with Park District 1. I was a proponent of it. I found it unfortunate how some on council talked about it, treated it, made it seem like it was some kind of a shady, underground, nefarious thing that the city was trying to do. And so it's going to be something that the voters are going to have to approve if they want. If not, then the city is going to be in some real trouble with how they're funding their parks and where we're at. When Park District 1 came into existence, we were already $23 million in the hole as far as our maintenance and repair programs in the parks. We haven't really caught up to that because of the way City Council has used Park District 1 up to this date. And so they haven't used it as the tool that it was designed for, which is unfortunate. I would hope that it stays. You said it's an important piece of the funding, and it certainly is. So as somebody that's elected, I would do my best to inform everybody how important Park District 1 is and how we can use it to fund our park system.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
I don't have the advantage of sitting on the park board at any point in my life, but my understanding of Park District 1, albeit, I'm not well-versed here, but my understanding of Park District 1 is it was set up as a deferred maintenance fund. That was the original intent for Park District 1. And unfortunately, like many funds, that fund was redirected to other projects. And that's what I'm being told. I'd like to do a little more research there and have my own opinion here, but that's what I'm being told. As far as a strategy to fund parks, looking at budgets, looking at where the city's going, we're going to raise your taxes if that's your endeavor. The taxes will be raised. Your property tax will be raised because I don't think there's any other opportunity here, other than some fundraising and some volunteerism. I see raising taxes as having to be done to do that. The other problem with the Billings voters reauthorizing this thing is, again, my understanding is the assessments are at the will of the council. And that's a scary proposition for a citizen because, politicians have money and want more money. That's where we're going with that whole thing. So I don't know that I would vote to reauthorize Park District 1 at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez?
Well, I certainly support parks because parks are some of the amenities that families are looking for so that they can play and have their children take advantage of activities. I think they're crucial. I support that. I think, again, we need to be much more innovative. I have worked I've worked in the private sector as well, but the last 30 years, it's been primarily the nonprofit sector. And I think that we need to recognize that it takes working together to address some of these issues. There are huge advantages to that. I am constantly called into working with nonprofit projects that are basically federally and state unfunded mandates that we have to find solutions for. Well, this would be no different. We can leverage the advantages of the different sectors as private, public, nonprofit to come up with solutions for this. And I've thought of different things. I don't think I have enough time here to lay all that out. However, it's not like I'm not mapping some things out as possibilities because it's not the thing that I love about nonprofits is nonprofits are community benefit organizations, which has me thinking of what is in the best interest for our community. I also appreciate every sector because we can't live without one another. So let's take advantage of that.
Thank you. All right, let's come on out to the audience here. Who's got that first question? Mr. Councilman Boyette. And just as a quick note to everybody, I will be trying to do my best to repeat your questions so we've got it on the microphone so that we can get that out to folks who are unable to make it. So don't take any offense if I don't quite get it verbatim. So if I could paraphrase, with 11 members of council, how do you hope to wrangle up 6 other votes to get things done? And we'll start with Ms. Hernandez.
I feel that I've spent a good portion of my career convening people. And we convene people when there are issues that we need to address. Many times it's about working through conflict. And I do that often. I am currently the program director for the Institute for Peace Studies that also addresses conflict. And in my consultancy, I do organizational development, group dynamics. We bring people together to solve issues. I feel that I believe that I work with the best people in town because I get to work with leaders through the organizations that I've worked with, and that doesn't mean that we agree. But if we're committed to an issue, we can work to find solutions.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell?
Every success I've had as a professional has been based on relationship building, and building that relationship in a two-way street. So I intend to continue that with the folks on the council and with the county commissioners. I think that's the only thing we can do is build those relationships and make them stronger. I'm running a nonpartisan campaign. And I look around and I see, even on the council, there's partisanship there, and it's a shame. You get put into a box for this opinion, you get swarmed over for this opinion. It's an ugly thing that we face, and I think the only way to overcome that is, again, to build those relationships and have a common ground, two-way conversation. And I'm hoping that's possible at every level there.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton?
Well, first off, I promise to brush my teeth and wear deodorant before every meeting, Mike. Since we'll be sitting next to each other, I would hope you do the same. I would say, later this week I'm visiting with a gentleman in his 30s who has a terminal cancer diagnosis. And that's the hard work that I do and the hard conversations that I have almost every single day and that I've had throughout my whole career, honestly. And so hard conversations are not anything that I'm afraid of or afraid to have. I really value the skill of listening. I really feel like someone on council could do a better job of listening more and talking less. I think that would be helpful for a lot of the issues that we have on our council right now. And so, yeah, sitting down and talking with folks and understanding that we might not ever see 100% on this, but my experience has been when I sit down and talk with folks, we generally come away with a 80% understanding of what the issue is and how ultimately we all kind of want the same thing. It's just how do we get there, right? And so we all want to end up kind of at the same destination, but which road do we take? And I think in talking with folks, most of the time people leave these conversations and go, wow, I had a lot more in common with Tim than I thought I would. And the reason I'm here is because I got tired of people asking me when I'm going to run for office. Not because I'm a great politician, not really because I want to be a politician, but because of the conversations I've had with folks. And they know that I'm somebody that's going to listen to you, understand the issues, and we're going to talk about it. And so whatever 6, I would hope to get 8 or 9, 10 people. I'd like to see that become more of the norm on council as opposed to 6-5 votes. Mm-hmm. So,
Amen.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Brewer. All right, and that's going to be no way I can get that verbatim. And in fact, boss is trying to modify my format here too. I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to answer that. So we will continue in our order here. We'll start with Mr. Warburton. Add anything that you'd like to your previous answer, and then if the next couple candidates would address some of those concerns and just go ahead and expound on the things that you had chatted about. Just an extra 2 minutes to explain your thoughts. So, Mr. Warburton.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for trying to let me off the hook, but I appreciate the chance to talk about this again because it is important, and I think I've known it's important for a long time, going back to last year when we already knew we were going to be coming back to this again this year. I think what really was surprising was several months ago at City Council, I was there, and there were several business leaders there essentially saying, look, if you guys don't do anything, then we're going to take it upon ourselves to do this and start policing the area ourselves. So we need help, and that's why they were there, voicing their strong support for the public safety mill levy. And so I think if you're unsupportive of it, chances are you haven't been paying attention the last several years, and you're trying to get caught up now, which I think when it comes to the difference between myself and my opponents is that, I'm not going to need, I know the public safety mill levy. I have been involved in the discussions around that. I've witnessed it, I've participated, and I've been there. And I understand the issues well. I don't need time to read the studies. In fact, I've already read them. And if you want to know what the council is going to do about the studies, they're going to have a work session about this in a couple weeks where they specifically review just the fire and safety recommendations. And so it's important. And the business leaders have said, hey, we need help on this. And that's why they'll have my support with the public safety mill levy.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell?
Maybe you didn't understand. There's no distrust with me. I just look for accountability and transparency wherever. I want to make sure or ensure that we are following the data that we've been given. I want to make sure that you want to put a $100 million mill levy up, I'll vote for it if I can understand where it's going and we can account for where it's going. And not only that, but we can be transparent with the community about where it's going. But are we following these reports? Are we knocking them off as they give us the list of what is required or what we need to manage the public safety? I'm not sure of that. There's some more investigation I'll have to do. And again, I'm tentative on that public safety mill levy. Because as I sit here, it's, again, like putting a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound. It's willy-nilly. We don't have accountability, and we don't see where that money goes in the end unless you really do a deep dive. And I intend to do that deep dive before I put any vote for it.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez?
So in the late 80s and early 90s, I walked Montana Avenue as I passed out condoms to the prostitutes and the folks that were not looked upon favorably. So we are not there. So yes, I've been up close and personal to a lot of the folks that also, have either been affected by crime. I know many of our downtown business people, and I appreciate what their challenges are as well. I support the safety mill levy. I don't have any questions about that. I also believe that we have an accountability to the public to be honest with our community as to how we're addressing the underlying issues that contribute to the increase in crime. John, I agree. It's not, yes, it may be up, spiking, and so forth, but we're looking at a very short time frame. That's different than 20 years ago. So take a long-term view, and crime, is just the lens that we're looking through at the time. And I think we just need to be honest with ourselves and not be scared to ask the questions. So again, I support the safety mill levy. No issue about that, but I think that it's not good enough just to support the levy. We actually need to know what we're doing with it and how we're addressing the underlying issues. I support it so much that I also took the crime prevention through environmental design, which I love that program. That was fun. That was a fun day to do. I learned much about that, and there are things that we can do that are simple, and we can't overlook those things.
Thank you. So I'll hand over here, Councilwoman Purinton. Thank you. The question was, do you support the other ballot item that's going to come up this November, and that's the recall of the recreational marijuana?
You're looking at me. I start or what?
Right? I think so. Thanks for the help, everybody.
I do not believe in the repeal because the majority of citizens voted for that. And so who am I to go against the majority of our voters? The taxing of the products and so forth within the county, within the city, that is something that can be certainly examined. Like any other business and so forth, how, again, where would those monies go? And I don't know if that's enough on that. I'm willing to explore that further.
Thank you. Mr. Tiswell?
Excuse me. I don't need that. Interesting question, Mayor. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
I wish.
I'm a guy that's going to sit here and tell you that government's for the people, by the people, and the people have voted this in. Am I going to vote for a repeal? I may. But I would rather see, again, transparency. Where's the money going to go? Let's follow the money. Do we delay it out a little bit to further regulate it and determine where that money's going to go? And hopefully that money goes to mental health, public safety, and those sort of initiatives. We all know the problems that come with marijuana, and we also know the money that comes with marijuana. Am I for marijuana in the city? Probably not. But can we stop it? Is it going to be federally legal at some point? And are we going to face a bunch of lawsuits from people trying to get into the city, trying to get into the county on that? So again, transparency would be fantastic. But for the people, by the people has already spoken.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton?
I'm not in favor of the repeal vote. I think the voters have already spoken on this issue. I'm not a practicing addiction counselor. I do have my license currently. Addiction counselors treat people with all types of addictions. It's not just drugs. It's not just illegal substances either. And so the vote that they're proposing is not to, let's make marijuana illegal. Let's make it so you can't have it. It's just, let's make it so you can't buy it here. You can go down the road and buy it. And then that county, that city, they get the tax revenue from that. And so it's interesting to see council on one hand say, yeah, I think we really want to ask voters, again, if they really want this. Also, if they do, we would love to get the tax money. So they really want to kind of have it both ways. They want the money, and they need the money. I talked about tax structure before. This is another tool that's going to be available. But then on one hand, also I think it's a generational thing. We've been litigating cannabis use for 50, 60, 70 years, and I think there's a certain percentage of the population that's kind of ready to move on from this debate. It's kind of been settled. It's going to be legal here federally very soon. It's legal in almost 40 states, either recreationally or medicinally. And so I'm not really interested in rehashing the cannabis discussion that's been happening for 50 years. I think the voters have spoken on this issue, and I think we have bigger things to worry about, especially when it comes to drugs. I don't remember reading a story at any point in the last several years about man high on cannabis, rob store, kill somebody, any of those kind of things. It's meth, it's heroin, it's all the other things that we really have an issue with. So, no, I'm not in favor of this vote.
Thank you. Next question. Yes. I apologize. I don't know your name. Thank you. And we will start with Mr. Warburton. Question being approximately, what are your thoughts on dealing with our mental health issues and substance abuse issues?
Yeah, I think I've talked about it. We have more to do in that regard, and I think some recent decisions, closing down the hub, I found that unfortunate, especially for the folks that use that as a resource. And so, like I said, I think it's what we're seeing now is a result of not investing back in these communities over the last 30 years, and it's not something that we're going to change overnight. It's definitely not going to be a problem that I solve in 4 or 8 years. This is a problem that's going to take at least another couple of generations as we address generational trauma, domestic violence, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. Those are things that happen to kids that then they grow up and they turn to drugs, alcohol, other things to cope with stuff. So investing in kids, investing in programs that support victims of domestic violence, investing in programs that support victims of human trafficking. We've talked about that a lot lately here in the city. So those are the types of programs that need to be in place to help people come out of the cycle of addiction and mental health issues.
Thank you. Mr. Tiswell?
Mental health is of huge importance to me on a personal level. It's unfortunate. 20 years ago, Billings was a different place. You know that. And I think no matter what you do in this city, because we are the largest city, we do have a pretty robust, through traffic here. No matter what we do, it seems to get overwhelmed at some point. No matter how much money we throw at it, it seems to get overwhelmed. Hence, the hub closes down. There's a lot of, there are a lot of nonprofits that have picked up the ball here and there. Again, we can throw as much money as you want, but I think we're going to be overwhelmed. I see a need to do something, but I'm not on that side of the ball right now. I can't give you a valid answer of what we can do here, other than throwing large sums of money at it, and that doesn't seem very fiscally responsible, does it?
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez?
I wish the city council could just vote in all the solutions for this. I don't know how many opportunities we would have to address all the issues that you mentioned. However, I think that it would be we would be responsible for participating and exploring with our community leaders and organizations, nonprofit, public, and private, on how we can address solutions. We know that that there are drugs here, that there's trafficking, there's so forth. I mean, I worked at the Mental Health Center at the foundation before the Community Crisis Center opened up, as that was happening. So yes, I recall those conversations. It's still a great challenge. I was disappointed to see that the hub closed, because that really that really was necessary in our community. One of my clients is currently Tumbleweed, so I see firsthand working with homeless youth. There's all kinds of ills out there. And the city council will not be in a position to wave a magic wand and cure all that. However, we can work with our community leaders in finding solutions. You stated that crime has increased. Crime has increased throughout the nation in recent years. And there's many contributing factors to that. Yes, drugs are part of that. We can blame Big Pharma. We can blame many people, yet that's not helping us today as to how we solve that. So we really need to, again, get together and not be afraid to address the underlying issues and talk about them, which I think right now Substance Abuse Connect is doing a great job in bringing people together. And we need to continue those conversations so we can address that portion of it, because that's not all of it. We also have increased arms and just so many different things. Suicide that contributes to suicide. So, again, I think some of these issues are not things that the City Council will have the opportunity to address. Certainly I think we shouldn't shy away from that. And we would address some of those conversations as we partner up with our community leaders.
Thank you. Probably time for one more. Yes. Thank you. So question is, do you support a local option tax or a TIF or perhaps any other funding mechanisms to invest in our city? And we'll start with Ms. Hernandez.
I think I've already stated that I've gone to Helena in support of the local option tax, and I continue to support that. It pains me each time that gets shut down. And I think that we need to continue to build our relationships with our area legislators and have. I think that our public information officer can do a lot in helping explain to our community the value of a local option tax, so that we can have more people, join the chorus, as well as additional funding or continued funding for TIF. And anytime we can find incentives for growth and or projects in town, that's great. I feel that we need to change the narrative of how this is so taxing to us. Yes, it may be through taxes, but it's also an investment in our community. It's an investment in our families. It's an investment in our future, in the future of our children. And I think that public information officer, that office can go a long way in helping explain how the money is used. That's where transparency, once again, is really important. And then also the impacts that it would have in a positive way for our community or negative, whatever it is. We need to be honest about that and let our citizens help us decide what is in the best interest, in their best interests. I could go on. I'll stop.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
I like the idea of a local option tax, but when you put forth a tax like that, politicians, the city, they want more. And it's a continuous raise, raise, raise. What are we going to do to offset, say, personal property taxes if we bring that in? I think it's a great idea, but I think in the end, the city, the politicians, the leaders in the city just want incrementally more. You're not going to cap anything. You're not going to maintain a cap. But I do think that looking at I guess a local options tax, I think that's a good idea. But what's the counter to that? You know, where can we help the citizens of Billings to where we stop them from paying every single thing that happens in Billings? You know, we maybe look at the tourism or the people that are visiting Billings to pay a little bit of that bill. But like I said, you put that local option tax in, and the next thing they want more. They want more. They want more. They want to. It's politics as usual with that, in that respect. I think we need it. I think we need to address the issues of the shortages. But I think it needs to be a comprehensive look at it. That's about all.
Thank you. Mr. Warburton?
Yeah, I'm in favor of Billings at least having the option to have a local option tax. That's not even an option right now. I mean, that's the argument is, can we at least even have the option to vote on this? And I would be supportive of that. I would also likely be supportive of a local option tax as well. I think of the record-breaking tourism we've seen in the last several years here. We don't capture much of that income to the city, but the property owners are responsible for covering the basic infrastructure of that. So if you're a tourist here, you get to enjoy all the benefits of visiting here, while you, the property owners, make sure that if they need a fireman for some reason, that they show up. If there's an accident, the police show up. We pay for that as the property owners. And meanwhile, they come here and don't pay any taxes to us to use our infrastructure. So I think that really has to change, talking about it's not really a sustainable model, I don't think, to just rely on the property owners to fund everything. You know, it is an investment and people do want nice things. It's an interesting dynamic between, don't raise my taxes, but please make sure that if I have a fire, the fire truck gets here in a timely manner. Or please don't raise my taxes, but please make sure you have enough money for code enforcement so my neighbor can't park 10 cars outside and have weeds. And so, you know, we got to have money as a city to provide the basics for the people that live here. And I don't think there's anything wrong with capturing that money that comes in from tourism, or, you know, even folks from Wyoming that come up here to shop at Costco as well. And so, and then I think you look at, you know, the cannabis tax, there's another option for us. Those are the types of things that Billings really needs to be proactive for in looking for to kind of help this situation that we're in. So I'm supportive of the local option tax, at least having the option of that, and open to any and other ways we can create income. It's not politicians wanting more. I would be, quote unquote, a politician if elected, and I would just be representing the folks that I represent. It's not, I'm a politician and I want more money. It's that my neighbors don't want to have to pool their resources together in their little neighborhood to build a park. The city should be building that if there's supposed to be a park there. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So.
Thank you. All right, we're about a minute out of 9 o'clock, so we'll condense that time. We'll limit these to a minute long. But this is your opportunity as candidates to make your final remarks, make the case for your candidacy and the vote of the folks who have joined us here today. And we'll start with you, Mr. Warburton.
Well, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's been really great just to chat a little bit. You know, I think my candidacy is one of generational change looking forward and wanting to invest in the next 25 years. I love the question about the next 25 years. I'll be here, my kids will be here. The choices that I make in representing you guys on city council will be with the intention of how does this make our community better in the next 25 years. I'm not going anywhere, and I don't expect my family to either. And so we're committed to making sure we do right by Billings, and that I represent you guys well as your rep on Ward 4. So I would love your vote. I would love to visit with any of you individually if you want. Just let me know. But I'm always happy to sit down and talk to people anytime.
Thank you. Mr. Tidswell.
Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm running a nonpartisan campaign here. What my focus is what is best for my ward, what is best for the Billings population. I want to hear from my constituents. I want to hear from the community, and I want to take what they say to me and bring it to City Council and represent my people. I don't have any political aspirations by any means. I just want to do what's right for the city because we've been here quite a while, and I will be here in 25 years, and I hope it is vibrant and beautiful and welcoming, and that's what my focus will be on the City Council. So I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez.
I've been around a while and poked my nose into a lot of things. I can remember when John first started, came back as the director for the chamber, and I called him up and said, we need to talk, right? And it's because I really wanted to make sure that we looked at all the sectors, private, public, and nonprofit, to see how we can coordinate our efforts to have a great city. I believe that Billings still has room to have transformative change and to really impact the future of our city, that it makes it a wonderful place to be, the chosen place to be in Montana above any other town or city for our children, our families, and I feel that I can continue to do that. In between 2008, 2010, I helped to lead the Gracious Space community conversations that happened for the city because they were not being viewed very highly. And I think that also, there's chats with the chief. He continues to have that, uses some of those same communication tools. I feel I can bring people together, and I feel that I can be an ambassador for Ward 4 in all the business of the City Council. And I'm happy to listen, and I'm happy to work on your behalf. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you. All right, let's give our candidates a round of applause. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I want to thank MSU Billings for hosting us here. I want to thank our business advocacy sponsors. Again, they're listed there on your table tents. And hopefully we'll see you next week when we have our last final Coffee with Candidates, Ward 5. We'll have all the candidates there at Parsec Data Management. So thanks everybody and have a great day.
Thanks, Mindy.
You as well.